teraz Path of Exile 1, Necropolis, nadchodzi nowa liga.
Cold flesh, dirt, maggots, and ghosts. Our job is to keep them where they belong.
Nie umarli.
It's your first night, so you'll need this. A ghostly lantern for ghastly tinkering.
Okej. O chuj chodzi. Nie rozumiem.
You learn to peer into the souls of the dead.
Wrzucasz sobie rzeczy
You learn
do
how
latarni
to
i
twist
co
them.
dalej?
Meet me in the Necropolis. You can pilfer shiny things from a corpse,
Kraftujesz sobie encountery chyba.
but you can
Wait, what?
pilfer glorious things from a soul. I need a grave digger.
Kraftujesz itemy, które mogą mieć 7 modyfikatorów, tak? Multiple Atlas Passive Trees. Let's go! Więcej gemów! Uberlysia!
The job's hard, but the pay's good. What do you say?
A czekaj, widza trzeba zbanować.
In the Necropolis League, you will encounter Undertaker Arimor, a man collecting the scattered spirits of the Eternal Empire for a mysterious purpose.
Nic nie widać przez kamerkę.
These spirits have begun to haunt the monsters of Rayclast, unleashing their ancient fury and sorrow onto the world. The Undertaker will provide you with the Lantern of Arimor, a powerful family heirloom which can illuminate the wrathful spirits haunting monsters throughout Rayclast. With it, the Undertaker hopes to employ you to rid Rayclast of this menace, and further his cryptic cause.
Okej, czyli
The
spotykasz
lantern can
potwory.
be used when entering any new area. When peering through it, you can examine the spirits haunting that area.
Aha!
The lantern also allows you to manipulate them, letting you configure which monsters are affected by which mods. It would be wise to take your time with your decisions here, for the spirits are not
Czyli
forgiving.
wchodząc do każdego nowego zone'u, możesz przygotować,
When
które
peering through
duchy
the
będą
lantern,
opanowane
you can
przez...
also see extra details about the packs of
potwory będą-
monsters in the area. Rowers here are considered common, whereas the water elementals are more scarce. If you want things to be easier, you can put the more difficult spirits on the elementals, which you'll encounter less often. We've tried to make sure that by engaging with the lantern, you are able to intelligently control the difficulty in the Necropolis League. The spirits come in a number of forms which represent the danger they pose. For example here, the infested vultures are servant haunted, causing them to deal a small amount of increased damage. But the Vol's Vanguard are noble haunted,
Czyli różne
causing
tiery
them to deal a
duchów,
large
które
amount of increased damage. As you
opanowywują
reach
potwory.
higher level areas in Rayclast, the tier and number of spirits that are haunting monsters will generally increase.
A można
Your
to
game knowledge
wyłączyć?
can help you here. If you're aware of the composition of a monster pack, this means certain mods will be easier to manage.
Żeby na przykład nie było
For
potworów
example,
na lidze?
the
Znaczy
mod
na
that increases a
mapie?
pack's damage for every monster killed has no effect on packs with a single monster, like a Devourer. However, if we found a spirit that makes the strongest monster in a pack deal 100% more damage, well, I'm going to avoid the Devourer. You might have noticed that the Lantern of Arimor provides other useful information, such as the types of abilities monsters use, or the damage types they deal.
Ty właśnie,
So for
fajne
those
quality of
who are
life.
less familiar with how these monsters work, this can be a great way to learn what you're up against.
To powinni wprowadzić do
The
bazowej
spirits are
gry.
constantly moving throughout Rayclast, so if you are finding a campaign area too difficult, you can just wait a few minutes and peer through the lantern again to see what's changed. Of course, powerful spirits beget powerful rewards.
Czyli nie da się
There
tego
are two
wyłączyć.
reasons why you might want to face a challenge now and then. Firstly, not all the spirits are malicious. Sometimes the monsters aren't haunted at all, but are instead devoted. These can grant basic rewards
Patrzcie.
like increased experience, or bigger
Pozytywne
rewards like
bonusy mogą
spawning the
być.
Nameless Seer, an
Pozytywne duszki
NPC
w
that will
potworach.
grant you a single unique item after you defeat all of the packs affected by that spirit.
Że jak zabił potwora, to z
The more
potwora
haunted
zrespił się
monsters you
NPC,
defeat in
który
the
daje ci
previous
unikatowy
area
item.
before using the lantern, the more likely the devoted monsters will appear in the next area. Monsters haunted by higher tier spirits will increase the chance of the devoted appearing even more, meaning that sometimes it's worth putting the hardest modifier possible on very common monsters, if you're brave enough. Again, we've tried
Dawa,
hard here to
600%
allow players to
expa.
customize the danger and rewards as much as they can. Arimor is an Undertaker, and you can probably guess what we're taking to him. The second main reward from the Necropolis League is monsters with unresolved anguish. Once slain, their corpses need extra care from the Undertaker, and he will offer to take them back to his necropolis and store them
Ale
in the
zajebiście
morgue.
z tą taczką se przynosi zebrać ciało.
Time to earn your keep. When you are ready, you can visit the morgue to view the monsters you have collected, and then get to work burying them in one of many graves in Arimor's cemetery. For example, we will bury this Katava's hero.
Kraftujesz se w grobie,
Arimor's
tak?
mysterious soul experiments can coalesce powerful items. Here I've chosen to create a pair of boots.
Czyli zbierasz ciała i z tych ciał kraftujesz przedmioty z jakimś specjalnym modyfikatorem.
These boots are useful for my character, but aren't exactly what I hoped for. And this is where the Necropolis crafting system really shines. You'll have noticed that the corpse we collected earlier had a crafting effect on it. In fact, all collected corpses do. If you bury multiple corpses in the cemetery, all adjacent corpses can be exercised at once to create one item.
Pobliskie groby
All
wpływają
of the
na
crafting
craft,
effects on
który
those
robisz.
corpses will apply to that same item. This allows you to have either one or many different crafting projects ongoing in the cemetery. For example, next time I try to create boots, I could bury corpses that increase the chance of getting move speed modifiers.
Patrzcie, co tu się dzieje.
To go further, I could use these to generate higher tier modifiers. Then, I could try to bias it towards being an evasion pair with this. Finally, I'll apply some crafting effects that improve the probability of
wszystko na
getting
jeden
good
craft.
rolls. Now,
Deterministyczny crafting.
let's craft our item and see what we get.
Zajebiście to wygląda. Bardzo mi się to podoba.
As you can see now, we have a much better pair of boots, forged from the souls of our enemies.
Fosile na sterydach, no.
You could even use the entire cemetery to craft one item.
Cały
There
cmentarz
is
na jeden
always
przedmiot.
something
O
you can do
kurwa.
to try and ensure your item will be as best as it can be. We hope to see some really crazy grave crafts.
Okej.
If you are lucky,
Nie
you might
pokazali.
find corpses with meta crafting modifiers. These can be buried to manipulate your crafting projects in more drastic ways. This one increases the potency of all crafting effects of adjacent undead corpses. Another meta crafting modifier gives a chance to drop an extra item from your craft, with all the same crafting outcomes applied. All you have to do is bury a lot of undead monsters.
Okej. Żeby próbujesz wtedy wykraftować parę itemów naraz. Wkurzają mnie,
You
że
can
tych
also
itemów nie
craft
pokazują.
new unique items exclusive to the Necropolis League using this system. As you explore Rayclast, you might find the corpses of famous Eternal Empire families.
Julianis Nevalius.
And when you bury an entire family together and exorcise them, they will thank you with a unique specific to their lineage.
A całą rodzinę razem. Że masz jakieś rodzinne ciała i możesz całą rodzinę razem zakopać. To śmieszne akurat
For example,
konceptualnie.
the Nevalius Inheritance Belt. I'll give you a moment to check that out.
Flask effect per level.
You can use
Ah,
other corpses
zdążyłem.
alongside them to grant implicit mods, manipulate the values of explicit mods, and more. In this case, with the Parandus Pact, you can even change the modifiers it generates. This
No.
unique is a jewel which adds extra stats to passive skills in a radius when socketed into the passive skill tree.
Porundusi.
The stats it adds are randomly generated, but you can bias it towards a specific type by using other crafting effects, such as this one,
Aha.
which increases the chance of getting life
Ten
modifiers.
jewel może się zlosować
Let's
z
see what
różnymi
we get.
modyfikatorami, ale możesz wpłynąć na to, żeby była większa szansa, że pojawi się z life modifierem, czyli to jest taki craft your own unique. Masz unikat, ale on ma wiele wersji i możesz...
Damn, we didn't get it this time.
Wcześniej było
I guess
z
we're
life'em,
gonna have
teraz
to
z
go and
skrytem.
collect more corpses.
Czyli
Of
musisz
course,
zakopać całą rodzinę,
you
yep?
can trade the corpses away to other players. All you need to do is purchase empty coffins from the Undertaker and use them on your corpses in the morgue, which
Znowu
will
będzie można
itemize them.
handlować ciałami. Jak w zeszłej lidze.
Another item in the Necropolis League that you can find are Embers of the Allflame. These are monster spirits that remain living in the Allflame, a powerful ancient artifact of Rayclast, and you can set them free by placing them in the Lantern of Arimor and defeating them. These embers drop throughout Rayclast as itemized packs of monsters. You are able to use these packs to replace the packs
Allflame
in
Ember of
areas.
Tavoa.
For example, we have found this
Tatuaże.
Allflame Ember
Can
of
drop
Tavoa.
tattoos.
We can now go to enter the next area and replace one of the monster packs in here.
Tatuaże to jest jedna z najfajniejszych
You can
mechanik
see we have
powracających
also
w takim
gotten one
razie.
of the devoted modifiers to appear. We can pair up the Karui ancestors with this modifier, making them even more rewarding.
Uwielbiam
Let's go
system
ahead and
tatuaży w
replace
tej
the
grze,
tentacle
widzowie. Jak
miscreations.
ktoś nie grał, jak były tatuaże, jest na
However,
co czekać.
when replacing packs, you want to double check their density, as the new pack will inherit the density of the replaced pack. The Karui ancestors we have now added to our area can even drop basic variations of tattoos. If you aren't aware, this is an item type from the Trial of the Ancestors League, which can be used on passive skills to change what they do. There are many different types of itemized packs. You can find Breach and Legion monsters that drop splinters, Untainted packs
Okay,
that
czy to
provide
będzie
insane
giga
amounts of
common dropy, te
experience,
Allflame,
and
będą
even
cały czas to
simple
dropić.
frogs, which can be used to replace difficult monsters to make life easier. And of course, these Ember monsters can be raised as specters too. Finally, let's discuss how this league works in
Czyli dużo
in-game
nowych
maps.
spektrów potencjalnie.
Each in-game map will allow you to manipulate it using the lantern on the map device UI. However, instead of randomly cycling every few minutes, it is fixed to that map. Once you view the map through the lantern, you cannot remove it from the map device, so you can't trade that map away now that you've seen it as too difficult for you, or has monsters in it that you'd rather avoid, like porcupines.
Czyli trochę dodatkowego
We're also trying
mikromanagementu przed
something new
mapkami.
this time around. During the Necropolis League, there will be support for the League on the Atlas passive tree. Multiple clusters will be there, allowing you to enhance the gameplay, customize it, and even change its behavior in
kurde.
meaningful ways. One way that you can change the crafting in a meaningful way is
Drzewko
with the
pod Necropolis od
Prospero's
razu
Wager
będzie.
Keystone.
To ciekawe.
With this
Nigdy
keystone,
tak nie
all the
robili.
monsters with unresolved anguish come with this crafting modifier, which causes them to generate a random craft when buried. This means instead of pre-planning your crafts, you have to adapt to them on the fly to get the best results. These clusters will not be available in standard
Na
League.
SSF-ie na pewno będę tym próbował, bo to jest
In
kolejny system
324, we've made a
craftingowy.
plethora of changes to the endgame. We're introducing new bosses, adding another tier of maps, and streamlining the Atlas.
Wait, new tier of
The
maps
most
powiedział?
difficult and most rewarding content in
Dobrze
Path of
przeczytałem?
Exile can be found
Usłyszałem?
in uber pinnacle bosses, such as the Maven and the Searing Exarch.
Huh?
Currently, the only way to access these bosses is by allocating specific keystones on the Atlas passive tree. While this system offers a nice element of control, it causes a problem. Rewards and access to the non-Uber variants are now economically priced around the rewards of the Uber fights.
Naprawiają
This
ekonomię
means it
trade'ową?
is wasteful to run the non-Uber variants instead of simply selling them. Another problem that we noticed is the difficulty jump between the Pinnacle and Uber Pinnacle content was relatively large.
Tak, narzekałem na
And there
to.
wasn't obvious content
Brakowało
that could
czegoś
bridge this
pomiędzy.
gap.
Pomiędzy
Many
zwykłymi
players
bossami i
would give up
uberami.
on their characters before being able to defeat the Uber Pinnacle bosses. In 324, we will be making some changes to this. We are removing the keystones that give access to the Uber Pinnacle bosses from the Atlas tree,
Bardzo
and
dobrze.
instead we'll be adding a new set of fragments that give you access to this
Świetna
content.
zmiana. Zajebista
Where do
zmiana.
you get these fragments? We are adding a new tier of maps, tier 17 maps,
O
which not
kurwa,
only give
widzowie.
you access to the Uber Pinnacle content, but also test your characters in new ways. They feature a new set of bosses, Uber monsters, and a new
Uber
tier of
monsters.
modifiers that can roll on the maps.
Czajcie? Brutus był potworem.
There are 5 new tier 17 maps in total, with some surprising boss fights at the end. We'll look at a couple today, and the rest you'll have to discover for yourself.
Czyli nowy
First,
tier
we
mapek.
have the Citadel map. This
to jest
map
jedna z
contains
nich.
an ancient Kalguran citadel. You will encounter many expedition monsters as the signature packs throughout the map. At the end, you will fight Uber Uhtred. This is a version of a boss from Expedition League, with all its abilities and mechanics enhanced. Uber Uhtred will even be able to summon 2 other expedition bosses to aid it
Braci
during
swoich
the fight.
przyzywa. Pozostałych Expedition
Secondly,
bossów.
we have the Fortress map. This map is an impregnable fortress, guarded by monsters from the Heist League. At the end, you will encounter an Uber version of the Unbreakable.
Ej,
Again,
świetne,
it has
świetnie brzmią
enhanced
te zmiany.
abilities and mechanics you'll have to learn and overcome. Each of the Tier 17 map bosses has a chance to drop a unique item, allowing for some target farming. However, these aren't entirely new unique items. Instead, we've taken other unique items, removing them from the core drop pool and rebalancing them to fit here. One example is this reworked version of Wraith Lord. It has 4 Abyss sockets,
Okej.
and allows you to summon an additional Spectre for each Ghastly Eye
What?
jewel socketed into it.
Ten hełm może ci dać plus
Another
4
example
spektry,
is Mana
co?
Storm. This has been rebalanced to grant a lot more damage than before, alongside some more impactful mana stats, if you can get lucky rolls.
Okej. Muszę to potem na
Alongside adding
spokojnie.
Tier 17 maps, we have also changed the Uber Pinnacle bosses to have completely distinct unique item drop pools from their
Nowy drop
non-Uber
dla
counterparts.
Uberników!
This means there is a reason to farm both versions. Let's take a look at the Shaper versus the Uber Shaper. The Shaper will drop these uniques: Voidwalker,
Totalnie nowe
Shaper's
uniki.
Touch, Solstice
Z bossów.
Vigil, and Dying Sun. Whereas the Uber Shaper will drop these: Echoes of Creation, Sublime Vision, Entropic Devastation,
prostu zmiana z-
Starforge, and a new unique belt called the Tides of Time.
Okej.
Another example of a new unique is this helmet from the Uber Eater of Worlds, Ravenous Passion, and these gloves from the Uber Searing Exarch, the
Za dużo informacji
Celestial
naraz.
Grace. Each of the Uber Pinnacle bosses has a new unique added to their drop pools.
Pod 28
We've
Fortify'a.
identified another major problem with the endgame we'd like to address. With every expansion added to the game, we have been increasing the complexity of running maps. It's at the point now where a player must repeatedly execute a large sequence of steps to run maps efficiently.
Uproszczają skaraby.
It can be easy to forget critical steps, and it can be tiring to repeat
Jeszcze
them.
jeśli nie wyrzucą sekstanty z
To
gry, to będzie
solve
dobrze.
this, we are removing some systems, but are keeping what is good about them. The 2 main systems we've removed are Sextant
Tak!
and the Master Mission Selector. It is not our
Jebać
intention to
sextanty.
dull the content, however. We have completely reworked Scarabs to include most of the options that were previously covered by those mechanics, and many, many more. Let's take a look at some of them. Commonly,
Ale
you
to
might
dobrze
find
brzmi.
Scarabs that simply grant access to different content. Here, we have a Scarab that causes Beyond Demons to spawn when killing monsters in your maps. And here, we have one that adds a Delirium Mirror. Each type of Scarab now has multiple versions, so if you want to fully invest in a type of content, you can do
Czyli jest
so.
nowy typ skarabu
Here's a
też.
suite of Ultimatum Scarabs. This Ultimatum Scarab adds an Ultimatum encounter to a map. This Ultimatum Scarab of Bribing then causes that Ultimatum encounter to grant better rewards and its monsters to yield more experience.
No, to
This
okej.
Ultimatum Scarab of Dueling will cause that Ultimatum encounter to always guarantee the Trial Master boss fight at the
Ty,
end.
możesz forsować
Assuming you
teraz
can
Monster
survive
Bossa,
through all the
a to dopiero
rounds.
trzeci tier z
This
5.
Ultimatum Scarab of Catalyzing will cause all rewards from that ultimatum to be catalysts, instead of other rewards. And finally, this Ultimatum Scarab of
Aha,
Inscription
że
will
one
cause
teraz nie
all
są
catalyst
tierowane
rewards from that
siłą,
ultimatum to be
tylko
inscribed ultimatums
kustomizacją
instead.
nagród.
There are
Na przykład.
plenty of others. If you enjoy divination card farming, you might want to use these. This Divination Scarab of Curation causes more divination cards to drop for each different favored map you have selected. But it also causes whatever map you're running to only drop divination cards from those favored maps.
Ci
So
skaraby
if you
pozwolą
want to
na
try and aim for your
ciekawszy
main
sposób
slot and don't
kustomizacji
want to
swoich
just farm
mapek.
Crimson Temple, then this Scarab is for you. This Divination Scarab of Completion causes your divination cards to have a 20% chance to drop as a
Full
full
staki
stack
będą mogły
instead,
dropić. To
for
zajebiste
maximum
pod
dopamine.
jakieś klipki.
Basically, there are now just a lot of Scarabs. You might have also noticed that they no longer have tiers. Scarabs are now all world drops. You can get them anywhere. Some might be rarer than others, but the intention is that there'll be a lot more options than before,
To słuchajcie,
and more interesting combinations to
Fragment
consider.
staż teraz opłaca
If you
się
want
bardziej
to
niż
target
kiedykolwiek.
specific Scarabs, Betrayal has been updated to include most of them, and you will need to relearn which ones come from where. While this system is allowing you to heavily invest in one type of content, it is reducing your capacity for variety. To address this, we have massively increased access to content on the Atlas passive tree.
Buff Atlas
You are
Passive
now
Tree.
able to reliably get different
Patrzcie, z
leagues
małych
like
punktów
Breach
miał po
or Legion
10%.
from just your Atlas passives. Regarding master missions, content such as Incursion, Delve, Betrayal, and Bestiary, these too are now accessible with Scarabs, and have more reliable investment options on the tree. Not only this, you can now get Jun, Einhar, Alva,
A to o
and
tym
Nico to
wiedzieliśmy,
appear
że mogą
together
być
in the
wszyscy naraz.
same map. We have
Warto,
also
warto,
removed
Harris.
some keystones
Dawaj,
such as
29.
Wandering Path, Grand Design, and Growing Hordes, but have added some new ones too. For example, Unwavering Vision,
Grants 20 Atlas Passives.
Back to Basics,
Aha.
and Thorough Exploration.
Affliction Wisps! Co ty gadasz?
And we have added some new notables such as Remarkable Relics, which allows you to try find better variants of Scarabs. Mounting Modifiers, which increases the values of modifiers on your maps by 2% for each explicit modifier. And Tainted Carapaces, which is just one in a set of many that allow you to target farm specific types of Scarabs. These are just a few of the many new notables
Czyli
that can be
zarówno
found on
Affliction
the Atlas
i
passive
Trial
skill
of the
tree.
Ancestors wraca w jakiejś
Lastly,
formie.
we are giving you more flexibility in what content you want to run in the endgame. In 3.24, you can now have multiple copies of the Atlas tree, which can be swapped between maps at your leisure.
Czajcie?
You can
Parę
unlock up
strategii
to
naraz.
2 extra trees for a total of 3
Będziemy mieć
by
3 drzewka.
progressing through the endgame and completing core content.
Zajebiste.
When you
Switchowanie
open a map,
cały
you
czas
can
między
select
dwoma
which
czasami
tree you
było
would
tak
like to
wkurzające.
use. For a given league, you'll never feel constrained to playing your endgame a single way. You can also label your trees to
OPMR
easily
strat.
identify which one has which content. With all this combined, we're hoping to see new endgame strategies shine through. While playing through the campaign in
Co
3.24,
zmienią z
you'll
kampanią?
notice a myriad of small improvements and surprises. The fundamentals of the campaign are still intact, but we've scattered fun encounters and secrets throughout Rayclast. The Dweller of the Deep has been trapped.
Okej.
What are these ritual shrines doing in the northern forest? And why are they giving me omens?
Okej.
This device looks safe. I should definitely use this on
Double
my
Corrupts w
items.
kampanii?
There are plenty more encounters to discover. We'll continue adding more surprises in future releases, so keep an eye out.
Czyli
In
integrują
the previous expansion, 3.23,
Mechaniki
we
ligowe?
released a large number of transfigured skill gems.
jako sekrety w
These are
kampanii?
alternate versions of existing skill gems that function in very different ways, allowing for more build and gameplay variety. At the time, our aspirations were higher than we could achieve. We planned more
Co to,
gems
jakiś
than we
nowy
could
Elemental
make.
Kit?
So, in 3.24, we're adding another set of transfigured gems that we have now finished. Ice Shot, Incinerate, Artillery Ballista, Tornado, Elemental Hit, Kinetic Blast, Poisonous Concoction, and lastly, Summon Holy Relic.
Okej, a pokażą
Hopefully
je?
those of you who missed your favorite skill having a transfigured variant will get that here. We will certainly be adding more of these in the future, especially for skills that are missing them still.
Czyli mamy z 10 nowych
Of
gemów.
course, we'll also be doing a balance pass on the existing transfigured gems. One of the main ones we're looking at is Kinetic Bolt of Fragmentation. As a result of this change, it is clear that the endgame potential of the Wander archetype really starts to suffer, mostly in the single target damage department. Due to this, we've added the new support gem, Sacred Wisps.
Nowy
This
support
support
gem.
gem causes supported skills to create 2 attached wisps for a duration.
Patrzcie.
With these
Duszki
wisps,
latają
whenever
za
you
tobą.
attack, they have a chance to also use the same skill, if you have enemies in your presence. And if there are any rare or unique enemies, they will always use the skill.
Że robisz
That leads
duszki,
us
które
into
razem
all
z
the
tobą
other
biją
quality of
skillem.
life features we're introducing in 3.24.
Okay.
And there's a shitload of them.
Shitload!
Many of these have been revealed in teasers already, but here's a quick summary.
Gówno ładowanie.
We've added the automation and call to arms skill gems, for being able to trigger instant skills and war cries without having to bind them to left click.
Kontrowersyjna zmiana.
You can now hold down Control and left click to automatically apply certain currency orbs
Wyliczyłem,
until
że
they
to mi
achieve the
będzie
desired result,
myszkę
before you run out.
trzymało dużo
For
dłużej,
example, you can hold down fusings until you reach maximum links.
bo będę około 12 000
You will be
kliknięć
able to
sejwować
control,
na ligę.
shift, click currency into a trade window to automatically move all of that currency at once from your inventory. Detonate Dead now has clearer telegraphing effects.
O, to dobre. Detonate Dead jest
When harvest
dużo
crafting, the item hover will
klarowniejsze.
always be visible, so you no longer have to mouse back and forth to see the results of your crafts. When you use a Val orb on a map, the map no longer has a chance to become unidentified.
To też widzieliśmy,
Instead,
nowe
it adds a
efekty
new
walorbowania na mapach i
We've
na
created a
flaszkach.
set of implicits that affect the areas in fun ways. Related to that, corrupted and mirrored items can now be identified.
Można identyfikować.
Breach hands now open upon approach, and no longer need to be clicked. Upgrades to Pantheon powers now apply to all characters in a league.
To jest
You
świetne,
no
jak
longer
ktoś
need to
robi dużo
grind
postaci na
divine
ligę.
vessels on each new character. With harvest crafting, you can now re-roll Uber Elder fragments. Fragments dropped by the
fragmentów
Shaper cannot be
SSF-owcy
re-rolled
się
into
mega
fragments
ucieszą.
dropped by the Elder, and vice versa. Regarding Betrayal, we're removing Ashling's crafting bench as a reward. Instead, Veiled Orbs now perform that function. They remove a mod and replace it with a Veiled mod.
Pojawiło.
These orbs now drop from Katarina and are no
Tylko
longer
jaki
a
drop
world
rate
drop.
to będzie mieć, to jest ważne.
Flasks can now be corrupted by Val orbs, giving random -10 to +10 quality. The capability to add extra quality to weapons, armors, and flasks has been removed from Betrayal. The Betrayal bench craft that
Te
converts an
wszystkie
amulet to a
zmiany to jest
talisman has been moved to
My
bestiary.
widzieliśmy te wszystkie
And
zmiany
thus
wcześniej.
can be traded.
Jest o nich filmik na moim
Maven
YouTubie nawet.
invitations no longer drop.
To są takie rzeczy
Instead,
bardzo quality of
when you have
life'owe.
completed
Zwłaszcza
witnessing all bosses
pomogą
required
ludziom,
to go to the
którzy
Maven's arena,
trzeba było korzystać z
you can
jakichś
just talk to
Discordu, do
Karak
tradingu i
and
tak
he'll
dalej.
open a
Teraz
map device
na luzie
window
te
with the
rzeczy będzie
invitation
można
already in
itemizować
there,
i
ready to
kupować
be
na
rolled.
tradzie tym oficjalnym.
Star Wars maps that granted invitations now give scarabs. No more having to waste Guardian kills to try get invitations to drop.